And we are in. Guys, welcome back to the channel. If you see yourself as skinny fat, then this video is for you because I'm going to show you how to go from skinny fat to strong in a pretty damn quick time. The thing is though, right, if you see yourself as skinny fat, what does that actually mean? That probably means that you have more fat than you'd like in not the places you want it and not as much muscle as you would want either. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to torch that fat, how to build some real muscle, and I'm going to give you the step-by-step guide to make it as quick and as easy as possible. But the thing is, right, it might not feel like it right now, but you're actually at an advantage, and I'll explain what I mean by that. You know what you want. You've kind of identified yourself as skinny fat, right? Most people don't. Most people kind of floating through and they're kind of like, well, I'm a little bit this and I'm a little bit that and I kind of want to do that and I kind of want to do this, but I don't really know, so I'll just try and do everything and I won't really get anywhere. You know exactly what you want. And the fact of the matter is, the fact that you know what you want and the fact that you're watching videos like this tells me that you're ready to go, you're ready to do something about it, you're ready to go all in. And that honestly is a huge advantage because the biggest battle that most people face with this stuff isn't doing it. It's kind of in the mind. It's priming themselves to get it done, to get ready to go. So let's get into it. This solution is going to be a combination of things. It's going to be a combination of nutrition factors, exercise factors, and some lifestyle modifications. So I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. I'm going to keep it as value packed as I can. So feel free to grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, make some notes if you want. We're going to go quick, we're going to go fast, I'm going to explain as much as I can in a short amount of time. So on the nutrition side, what we want is for you to create a very slight calorie deficit. So you might be thinking, what the heck is a calorie deficit? So for anybody out there who is not sure, I will give you a very quick and brief explanation. So every single person has what we call a maintenance calorie number, okay? This is the number of calories that you burn in any given day, and it is based on your physiology and your activity level, so how active you are. It's based on 4 factors of your physiology. It's based on your age, your weight, your height, and your sex. And then, like I say, the 5th factor is how active you are. Now, there are various ways to calculate your maintenance calories, but the quickest, simplest, easiest way to do it is to take your body weight in pounds, not kilos, in pounds, and multiply that by 15. Now, like I say, that's not the sort of most precise answer, but it's going to give you a pretty rough and ready solution ready to go. So you've taken your body weight in pounds, you've multiplied it by 15, okay? That is now your maintenance calories. That is if you just wanted to kind of just stay the same with the same sort of body weight, body fat percentage, okay? But you want to decrease the amount of fat, but you also want enough energy to be able to build some muscle. So what we want you to do is to create a very small calorie deficit. So you're going to take that maintenance calorie number and you're going to subtract 250. That is now the number of calories that I recommend you consume every single day. How do you know how many calories you are consuming? Very straightforward. You track them, guys. And I know a lot of people will be out there like, oh, but calorie tracking, I don't really want to do that for the rest of my life. Listen to me when I say this. If you track your calories diligently every day for just 2 months, 60 days, that's not very long, you will never have to do it again for the rest of your life. Because you will realize a couple of things. First of all, you will realize that you are a very habitual eater, because we all are. We all eat the same sort of 5 to 10 things pretty much in any given week, right? You will also start to realize that you can look at food and see its nutritional value after you've tracked your calories for a certain amount of time. So you will be able to, even if you're eating out in a restaurant, you'll be able to look at a bowl or a plate of food and roughly assimilate the number of calories that are on that plate based on what is on that plate. Now, you might get it slightly wrong by 100 calories here or there, but that doesn't really matter. What that is going to do is going to give you a lot more of a mindful relationship and a conscious relationship with your food. And that honestly puts you way ahead of most people, because most people are eating at a very subconscious level. It's such a primal instinct to, food is one of the very few lifelong relationships that we have in this world, like along with oxygen, because we have to breathe, water, because we have to drink water, food, and sleep. That's basically it. Everything else kind of comes and goes, okay? So our relationship with our food is very important, and most people are doing it at a very mindless level. They're not very mindful about it. So if you understand your maintenance calorie number, if you create a small calorie deficit, and if you track your calories for just 60 days, I promise you, it will change your life for the better. Now, we want to create that small calorie deficit because when you're in a calorie deficit, you're burning body fat, okay? And we want to get rid of some of that skinny fat, okay? But at the same time, you might be thinking, oh yeah, but Lord, why don't I just create a bigger deficit and then I'll lose the body fat faster and all of this sort of stuff. The reason I don't want you to do that, or I would discourage you from doing that, is very straightforward. Food is our energy. Food is our fuel. And if you take away too much of your fuel, too much of your energy, you're not going to have the energy to do the next part, which is to build the muscle. So I want you to see this as a long game. I want you to see this, that you're on the trajectory of losing the body fat. It's going to be a little bit slower than most people, but if you want to build some muscle at the same time, trust me when I say this is going to be the best course of action because you're going to have enough energy, enough strength, enough motivation, enough drive, enough discipline to be able to get up and be able to get into the gym, okay? The last thing I want to say before we touch on the exercise side of things and the gym and the resistance training is protein. So we want to be making sure that you're in a high protein diet. So where are you going to get your protein from? Very straightforward, guys. As much as you can, try and get your protein from whole foods. And you also try and want to get as much protein as you can from sort of what I would sort of call like natural sources. So what I mean by that is dairy, eggs, fish, and meat. These ones, these sort of sources, they have the best amino acid profile, which means they have the highest bioavailability of the best quality protein. Now, you can supplement your protein. You can absolutely supplement your protein with protein bars or protein shakes. If you're going to do this, I would encourage you to have a whey protein shake. It's very rare that you find whey protein bars. Most of them are soy protein. Now again, there is some nutritional value to soy protein, but it's just not as bioavailable as whey protein. So as much as you can, get your protein from natural sources. As much as you can, if you can't do that, supplement it with whey protein, okay? How much protein should you have? Very straightforward solution to this. Just take your body weight in pounds and have that many grams of protein per day. At the beginning, that might seem quite overwhelming to you because you might be 175, 150 pounds or something like that. On day one, I'm not expecting you to go from like 80 grams of protein, which is where I tend to find most of my clients start, to 150 grams. What I would encourage you to do is build up. Imagine you're just taking one step at a time. So if you first, on day one, you start tracking your calories and you don't change that much, and you find that you're having 80 grams of protein, your first sort of step target is maybe to hit 100. And once you consistently get to 100, then challenge yourself to get to 100 or 120 or 125, and then ladder yourself up over time to 150, and eventually you'll be there. I have so many clients who, when they first start out working with me, they're on 80, 90 grams of protein, and me saying to them, we're gonna get you to 150 seems insanely like overwhelming to them. They're like, no, I won't be able to do that. And then they get to 150. Sometimes they go even higher. They get to 160, 170. I had one client the other day message me saying like, is it a bad thing that I had 190 grams of protein today? I was like, wow, like amazing. When you started, you were on less than half of that. So that's what I'm going to say on protein. Like I say, I've done entire other videos on this in my coaching program. You learn all about this sort of stuff as well. Let's move on to the exercise side of things. So probably goes without surprise me saying this, you're going to want to be doing some resistance training. So this is weights, this is cables, this is machines, this is barbells, this is dumbbells, this is body weight, whatever it might be. You're going to want to be doing this 3 to 4 times a week. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to hit all the major muscle groups at least twice. So what are the major muscle groups? You've got your chest, you've got your back, you've got your quadriceps, you've got your hamstrings. And your arms they're levers, so they will get worked twice because you're working your back and your chest, okay? So we want to be training at least 3 to 4 times a week. We want to be doing resistance training. We want to be hitting the muscle groups multiple times. How are you going to do that? Well, it's going to be dependent on the split, the exercise, the workout split that you use. So if you can only train 3 times a week, then I would encourage you to do 3 full body sessions. That way you're going to be hitting pretty much every muscle group 3 times. If you're able to do 4, which by the way is the preferential number, just because it enables you to spread your volume out a little bit further, you can do 2 upper body sessions and 2 lower body sessions. And that way you're hitting your legs and all your upper body stuff twice in that week, okay? The way I would structure that would be, like upper body on Monday, lower body on Tuesday, maybe a rest day on Wednesday, maybe even 2 rest days if you needed Thursday as well. And then Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, repeat that as well. So you're doing upper, lower, rest, upper, lower, rest, rest, or upper, lower, rest, rest, upper, lower, rest. Something like that, okay? Where are we up to with that? So what have we talked about? We talked resistance training. Oh, and then the last thing you want to be making sure, or two things you want to be doing when you're doing that resistance training is you want to be making sure you're doing lots of compound movements. So compound movements are movements, exercises, skills really, that work multiple major muscle groups. So what that means is think of anything like, I don't know, like what are some basic ones? Some bench press, whether that's with a barbell or a dumbbell, some overhead press, again, whether that's barbell or dumbbell, some pull-ups if you've got the strength to do pull-ups, but if you don't have the strength to do pull-ups, that's absolutely fine. You can do lat pull downs, or you can do some cable rows for some horizontal pull movements. And then for the legs, you've got your leg press, you've got your deadlift, you've got your squats. There's plenty of examples here, but if you really want to, you can literally just Google, give me a list of compound movements, or ChatGPT. It's probably even better than Google these days, isn't it? And then the last thing you want to be doing is progressively overloading, guys. So this is where you are increasing your training volume over time. And volume is very straightforward. It is the amount of weight you've lifted multiplied by the reps that you've done, and then multiply that by the number of sets you've done. So a very straightforward example, let me use some easy numbers. Let's say I'm leg pressing 100 kilograms, okay? And I'm gonna do 3 sets of 10. So that's 100 times by 10, so that's 1,000. I had to really think about that. Multiplied by 3, that's 3,000, okay? So my leg press volume on day 1 of week 1 is gonna be 3,000. The next time I do my leg press, maybe that's gonna be on my next leg session, maybe it's gonna be in a week's time, my goal is to increase that volume. Now, the easiest way to do this, and the way I would encourage you to do it at the beginning, is to just increase the weight until you can no longer increase the weight without compromising your form, okay? So maybe next time I go in and do 110 or 120, 130. If you're new to the gym or if you haven't done this for a while, you will find that you will make very quick gains and pretty significant gains here, right? They're called newbie gains for lack of a better scientific word, and they're awesome. I'm incredibly jealous if you are new watching this and you're about to go to the gym for the first time, because I've been doing this 16 years. I'm too long in the tooth to get anything now. If I can squeeze out 1 extra kilogram, I'm lucky. But once you get to a point where you can no longer lift any heavier weight with good form, that's when I would encourage you to try and do the same weight but with more reps. And then once you can't lift any more reps, this is where you then add a set. But what you will find is by manipulating those 3 variables, the weight, the reps, and the sets, over time, you will always be able to increase the amount of training volume. We call this progressive overload. Now, don't worry if every single session you're not increasing. There are gonna be days where you just are underslept, you're ill, you're tired, you're stressed, your body just isn't feeling it for whatever reason. But over a period of time, over a long enough time horizon, we were gonna be able to plot your volume. And if you went in on day 1, week 1, and your volume was X, and then after 3 months, your volume was Y, and it's higher, you have progressively overloaded, you have gotten stronger. The last thing I want to say on exercise, and this is probably the biggest needle mover for most people once they've kind of understood all of this stuff and set themselves up with the right training split and stuff, is form. Do not go in and start lifting the heaviest weights that you possibly can. Really focus on form and muscular tension, not the weight that you're lifting. We don't want any ego lifting, because if you're ego lifting, ego lifting is essentially lifting with your joints and not your working muscles. If a very basic example, if I want a bicep curl, right? My bicep looks terrible from this angle. Let's use this one. If I want a bicep curl, right, I want to be making sure that the bicep is actually working, okay? If I'm just swinging a dumbbell like this, I'm just using my elbow, right? Whereas if I'm like locking in and I'm really focusing on the weight, but the weight is light, the weight in my hand is light, I'm gonna be working that muscle more, I'm gonna be breaking those muscle fibers down, and I'm gonna be making more progress, okay? So that is the last bit on exercise. Now let's move on to lifestyle, because we're going to want to get rid of some unhealthy habits and bring in some healthy ones. But we're not going to be talking too drastic here. First and foremost, I wouldn't do any high intensity cardio. And I know that you might be like, yes, hopefully you are. I don't want you doing any high intensity cardio, because that is only going to increase your calorie deficit. And if you remember what I said about that, if we increase your calorie deficit too much, you're not going to have enough energy to go into the gym, to do the resistance training, and to progressively overload, to get stronger, to lift the heavier weights. So what I want you to do though is to focus on your walking. Get really diligent and disciplined about how many steps you're doing per day. And a little bit like your protein intake, first and foremost is to just look on your phone, because every phone has a step counter in the settings or health app or whatever it might be. See how many steps you're currently averaging. Don't look at yesterday, look at like last month. Get a decent data set. Try and get like what you would call, what you know is a normal month. So if last month was a normal month, look at last month, look at the last 30 days. What was your average daily steps? And if it was 6,000, I think the average in the UK is like 4,000, which is abysmal. And it goes a long way to explaining why we have an obesity crisis, right? But let's say your average is 6,000, okay? Which I would imagine if you're watching a video like this, you're probably around the 6,000 mark. If your average is 6,000 right now, your first step target is to get it to 8,000, or maybe even 7,000, average daily, okay? Once you've gotten to a daily average of 7,000, try and go to 8,000, 8,000 to 9,000. Everyone talks about this arbitrary 10,000 steps a day. Nothing magical happens when you hit 10,000 steps a day. It's just a nice round number, but I actually think psychologically it's quite a scary number to people. It's a big number, it's 5 figures. Whereas if I just said to you, aim for 8,000 and you hit 8,000 and it wasn't like a psychological burden to you and you did that every single day, rather than you having some days where you hit 10,000 and other days where you hit like 2,000, then you feel guilty and you feel horrible and you want to give up, you're not going to make as much progress. Whereas I just say, yeah, 8,000 a day is absolutely cool. Because it is. 8,000 a day is probably going to burn you about 400 calories, which is absolutely fine. The other thing you really want to dial in is your water intake, guys. And the secret to this is not to just have it near you, it's to have it in your eye line. I have literally always got water here at my desk in my eye line, and I always drink from big bottles like this, not tiny little glasses or tiny little bottles. By the way, I don't just buy these every day. Don't worry, environment people, I just refill them, hence why there's no label on this. And before anyone has a go at me about plastic and climate change. So I just refill them, put them in the fridge, and we go again, okay? But always have water in front of you in your eye line, because then you're not really having to think about drinking water. You just sort of see it, and then as soon as you see it, you feel thirsty. And then even now, just me saying this to you, me thinking about it, is making me feel thirsty. So you're far more likely to make the habit of drinking more water easier. And then people say to me, how much water should I be drinking, Doug? More. The simple answer is very easy. It's just more. Most people aren't drinking enough water. It's very hard to drink too much water, like very, 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 very hard. I think like 1 person a year dies from drinking too much water. So you don't need to worry about the upper limit of water. A very easy gauge of this is looking at the color of your pee-pee. And if it's not clear, then you're dehydrated. People don't realize that water is a little bit like a secondary energy source for us. Yes, calories and food is our main energy source, but water, and it's H2O, it's hydrogen and oxygen, right? We need oxygen in our blood to help nutrients go. Like oxygen helps with the sort of flow and the transportation of nutrients to cells. It helps, sort of dilute our blood a little bit and make things a little bit easier. So we want lots of water. And then last but not least, guys, we want to really be focusing on our sleep. So how are we doing that? Well, very simple. There's another video on this, which you can check out on my channel, called the 3-2-1 rule. And this is what I use. It's basically 3 hours before you go to bed, you want to have finished your eating. 2 hours before you go to bed, you want to have finished drinking water or drinking anything. And 1 hour before you go to bed, the hardest one, but will make a big difference if you can do it, is to come off screens, whether that's phones, laptops, TVs, whatever it might be. Now, I appreciate that is a little bit sort of idealistic. Is that even a word? I don't know. That's sort of, it's hard to get to. It's utopic, I suppose. But you don't have to do this every single day. What I would say is if you can do the first two, the 3 and the 2, the food and the water, you're going a long way. And this is basically going to improve your sleep quantity, but more importantly, your sleep quality. Because digestion is a metabolic process. Any metabolic process raises your heart rate, and you can only get good quality restorative sleep when your heart rate is at a resting level. Okay, so we need to give your body time to digest that food. And the reason we want to stop drinking water is so that we're not waking up in the night needing a pee, which, as I found, as soon as I'm 36 now, as soon as I turned like 31, I was waking up like twice a night, and it was horrible. And then I realized I just need to drink my water earlier in the day. So yeah, that's why I'd advise that. But above all of this, guys, all of the stuff I've talked to you about, and like I said, hopefully this has been really valuable. If it has, like the video, subscribe to the channel, I'm posting every day. But above all of this, guys, patience and consistency. Everything I told you just there is very simple, but doing it is not easy. And what's going to make it easier is having an anchor, a reason for doing this, a reason you're going to do it on the hard days when you don't want to. Because right now, if you're watching this video, I'm imagining you're pretty damn motivated, which is great. And I'm really happy that you are. But there's gonna come a day, it's probably gonna be a Tuesday, it's probably gonna be cold and rainy and dark, and the playlist has gotten boring and your muscles hurt a little bit, where you don't wanna do it. If you have a strong enough why, you will get up and do it. So that's why I'm gonna leave this, guys. I really can't stress this enough, because you don't have to tell people why you're doing it. It should be as personal as possible, but make it as powerful as possible, okay? However, I would encourage you to tell people what you're doing, because if you tell people what you're doing, even if they resent you for it or they don't understand or they don't care, it gives you an added layer of accountability. You're like, well, I've told everybody now, so I'm gonna have to turn up and do it. So guys, that's the video wrapped. Hopefully lots of value in there. If you want some help with all of this stuff, if you're a kind of man who identifies as being skinny fat right now, if you're still here, if you're still watching this video, feel free to go onto my website, spartan-fitness.com, scroll right to the bottom and drop your name, your email, your phone number, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. We can talk about some one-to-one coaching packages that I offer online. I'll leave the video here. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks very much for watching.